Hello and welcome to another episode of Selalelo. My name is Letebele, the coordinator for this program. This program aims to get Black people everywhere discussing issues affecting them. I'm based in Makhwaje, a small village in southern Botswana. Today, my guest is Lentle Makhwaje, a third-year psychology student at the University of Botswana. Lentle and I will be discussing gender equity in Botswana from a perspective of a young adult who's growing up in a society plagued by all kinds of social ills, which I attribute to the last remnants of patriarchy. Who knows, he might hold different views, so let's hear what he has to say. Lentle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
On top of being a psychology student, I'm also a stand-up comedian and social media influencer, and I go by the name Young Rinyani both on Facebook and on TikTok.
You know, your stand-up comedian persona is what attracted me to invite you to this episode, because I feel like you have a lot to say. I like your delivery and the things that you talk about. You are very controversial, so I'm hoping for a fire interview. As I already alluded, we are talking about gender equity in Botswana. Now, tell me, as a young man, how comfortable are you talking about gender issues when you're with your peers?
I believe me as a comedian and just the kind of people I interact with, I'm very free and open to talk about almost every topic. Right now, I have a lawyer friend who I sometimes help, and we come across such cases where he'll be handling divorces and domestic disputes. So I believe I'm very, very comfortable talking about gender issues.
Okay, so now, do you believe that gender inequality exists in Botswana?
Personally, I don't think there is one blanket answer to that question, because in Botswana right now, I believe we have different generations, and I was born in the 90s, and I believe the boys and the girls born in the 90s, they basically had the same opportunities when growing up. Maybe older people, there were still systematic issues in place that maybe disadvantaged females some way. But I think from people my age going up, equality in terms of opportunity, I believe both males and females, we just had, like, boys didn't have any advantage that I can think of.
Okay, so now, does that mean, okay, what do you believe about equality? Do you think that men and women can be equal, should be equal?
When we are talking about equality of opportunity, I believe definitely men and women should be equal. Girls and boys should have the same opportunities, should be handed the same opportunities when growing up. I'm not so sure about equality of outcome, whereby we try to socially engineer equality, but I believe girls and boys should just be given the same opportunities when growing up. Like, maybe if a girl child wants to be an engineer or any other traditionally masculine jobs, there shouldn't be anything in place, either policy-wise or law or even in culturally, that should stop that girl from being able to pursue that.
Okay, so but are you aware that there are some conversations around this alleged inequality in the country?
Yes, I'm aware of the discussions that are there, here and there.
Where do you think they stem from?
I don't know exactly. What are we talking about? Can you give me maybe
equality? Women are always crying about political representation.
Oh, okay.
You know, but I think it's much broader than that. In whatever form you may have heard it.
Yeah. I believe that form of inequality, it may originate from our culture, and maybe the religious systems that we have inherited from our colonial masters. They sort of like prescribe certain behaviors and certain roles to girls, as in girls are encouraged to be timid. You know, when there are some jobs, maybe like even politically or otherwise, there are some jobs that will require you to be loud and charismatic, but our women culturally from a young age, they are taught to be reserved and like to not be outstanding, to sort of like make themselves little. I think our culture to a certain extent it does that, where it discourages girls to pursue those traditionally charismatic jobs. That is why maybe you won't find them in those political positions.
Okay, so do you think that gender equality that the women are crying for threatens the role of men in society?
I don't think it does, because the way I grew up in Bokalaka, in the north part of Botswana. Boys and girls are just raised the same. There are no chores that you can say these chores are for girls, these chores are for boys. So I don't think empowering the ladies or giving them equality would threaten the men. In fact, I believe we can complement each other and make each other better.
I like that a lot. So now, because there is a chorus somewhere in the background, crying about inequality. Now, how old are you?
I'm 30 years old.
As a 30-year-old man, have you ever seen anywhere where women are disadvantaged in everyday life? Have you ever seen anything that suggests?
I think this issues of gender-based violence or domestic violence, that is the word that I prefer using, domestic violence. I think most of the time women are not able to live those situations because of like financial. Most women, if they had the economic means to do so, they would leave those abusive relationships. And I believe that this problem perpetuates sometimes because they are not able to live, because the man is usually a breadwinner. So I believe women are disadvantaged in that area, whereby they end up staying in those abusive relationships and those unconducive environments because they cannot fend for themselves.
Okay, I've seen an episode on your Facebook where you were talking about that, and I was impressed about how much guts you have, So I like people who have opinions and they're not afraid to express them, no matter how I feel about them. So now, patriarchy. There is a social concept called patriarchy where men have engineered a social system that puts them in a position to exploit and abuse women, and also to benefit from their labor without necessarily paying. When you don't pay somebody who works for you, that's like slavery, and it's not a good thing, right? So, do you think this is a thing?
I think patriarchy exists to a certain level, because, like I said, from my own observations, I don't think patriarchy is traditionally an African thing, because a woman, I believe you also know this, a woman is revered in our culture. Like our mothers and our grandmothers are very, very important in our culture. And I believe we have inherited patriarchy from our colonial masters, whereby you have God as a man and then you have those prescribed roles. I believe in our African culture, the roles were always complementary. Like whether you are a man or a woman, you had to do what was needed to be done, and it wasn't gender specific. And I believe our colonial masters, when they brought all those social changes, they brought patriarchy too. And that is why the way families are structured, the way the economy is structured, and that also the fact that I alluded to earlier on about women who end up staying in abusive relationships because the man is the provider. They were taught that the man is the provider, you have to rely on a man, you can't do anything without a man. These are conversations that I had in the background, that they might not be as explicit as they used to be back then, but they are still there somewhere in our social fabric. They are still there. So I believe patriarchy exists to a certain level in our society that
is it good or bad?
It disadvantages women to some point.
Okay.
And we are sort of like, if we follow it, we are sort of like stuck in the past.
Young women around you, your peers, how do they talk? Do you ever hear them talking about the challenges they face relating to this, whether it's patriarchy or unfair treatment or gender expectations? Do you ever hear them say it?
Yes, I do have female friends, and we usually have these discussions. But I think whenever these females my age, whenever they're discussing these gender issues, they don't like go for the critical ones. They sort of like just touch on the issues, the shallow issues that benefit them. Like I think this can be attributed to like the brand of feminism that is being pushed. Sort of like we have had a conversation for so long about women's rights to a point where now we have completely forgotten about their responsibilities. I think we need both. We need to have a conversation about both. And when we are talking about this is the rights that women should have, we should also have a conversation about women's responsibilities, because we cannot have a healthy society without responsible women. Responsible women are the backbone of a healthy society.
You don't give any quota, do you say? So now let's talk about what I think is male privilege and responsibility. I'm happy that you just led us into talking about responsibility of both genders. So now, do you think that men are privileged in our society?
Like other topics we've been discovering, the privilege can be multifaceted. There are areas where men can be privileged. I think when it comes to like making money and securing yourself financially, I think men are privileged. Like I was telling you about, men are allowed to be adventurous and like they can be outgoing, dexterous. Men are just like in a traditional family, a man can go out there and hustle without many questions being asked. Even the line of work that they can choose, like, and they can pick and choose what they do. And I believe there are certain restrictions in culture and at family level that might prevent women to be able to go out there and get their own money compared to men. But I believe the law, when it comes to the law, the law takes care of our women. The way our law is, like, the law takes care of.
Do you know that law changed only in 2012?
Which law?
There was a law that was scraped. It was called the dissolution of marital power.
Oh, the one where like a man could get a loan without
the woman's
the
knowledge
woman
or
signing. Yes.
And he could dispose of any family resources without consulting with the wife.
Yes,
and she was basically a child.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
But anyway, okay, now back to you personally. I want to know if you have ever been in a situation where you benefited where a woman would not have.
I don't think so. I don't remember of any instance where I might have benefited. But in our industry, in stand-up comedy shows, like, you can find that as stand-up comedy is dominated by men. The majority of comedians are men. There are very few women comedians, and there is actually a stereotype out there that women are not actually funny. So, but what I usually see, there are some times where a sponsor would say, like, if the lineup is 5 comedians, the sponsors would have a requirement that, can you put on a woman? Can you put on a lady? Like, it doesn't look good when the whole flyer is just 5 men. So I've had situations whereby, like,
where would you find them
sponsors
now?
And
where
bosses.
Would you find a funny woman? No, we just laugh. We get the humor, so we laugh. That's our participation. So now, why do you think, because it happens, why do you think men might deny that they hold privilege in a society?
No, if somebody holds privilege, I don't think they would wanna lose it.
Yeah.
And the most logical thing to do is to deny it exists.
Yeah.
If at all it exists.
Do you think when women are talking about gender equality, do you think they're being anti-men?
There are always going to be radicals, but I believe the bulk of them, most of them, are just being sincere and honest. But there are always going to be radicals who who can take a good cause and turn it and use it for.
So do you think men can actually have a role to play in dismantling this gender inequality? Because maybe it's because you grew up in a different Botswana, but I'll tell you that it does exist, this inequality.
Yes.
So do you think men have a role in actually, taking a step back and sharing some of the power that they have?
Yeah, I believe like I was saying earlier about society being healthy when we have responsible women. I think society can also be healthy when we have strong, secure men. And the key
Well,
attribute.
do you think men can actually support women's rights?
Men should support women's rights. Men should support women's rights, and men should help women with their cause to improve the lives of women and to try and eliminate the social ills that women might face. Like, men have a responsibility. They should do that. It's not a matter of whether they could, they should.
Okay. Would you participate in a campaign to protest or to campaign for women's rights ever yourself?
Definitely. If what we are campaigning for is clear and I understand it, I will definitely help.
What do you think would make it easier for men to speak up in defense of women?
Can you answer the question?
What do you think it'll take for it to be a little easy for men? Because some men might want to become allies.
Yes,
in the women's fight for their rights. So, but they are going to hide because some people might think that it is that simps. There are all kinds of names that men get called. So, what sort of things do you think can make it easy for more men to actually say, "Hey, women, we want to support you in your"?
I think if we have secure men, I don't know if you have come across one of my videos online where I'm talking about attachment styles, that we each have different attachment styles. I believe secure men, those things would come automatically if we have secure men. Those issues that we're talking about, that men can have a problem with being called simps and sissies and whatnot, that can only affect an insecure man, a man who lacks something within their psychosocial security. But if we have a secure man, I believe secure men, those things would come automatically. They would automatically support and uplift women if they are secure themselves. Sometimes men, they project and belittle and do all these things to women because they themselves, they are coming from a position of insecurity. So the key is to develop men and make them secure, and the rest will follow. And heal their traumas.
You're 30 years old, sir, and I imagine that you may raise a family one day.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah. So, what sort of future do you want your daughter to grow up in?
I actually want a daughter myself. I actually want a family. So I've delayed having a child in my 20s because I believed I wasn't mentally stable enough. So that is why I've delayed having a child. But if and when I do have a child, I want to do my level best to make sure that usually a lot of things happen to people. A lot of people get damaged psychologically when they are in their childhood. So I want to provide, when I have a daughter, I want to provide that stable childhood so that they don't get to contend with the only problems they get to contend with. There will be problems that we can't do anything about. But whatever can be avoided, I'll do my best to make sure that my daughter becomes secure and stable.
That is so profound. Can you imagine, even me as an adult woman, whenever I'm walking down the street and I see 2 or 3 boys walking, I always have to wonder if they are just boys walking or if they are waiting to do something to me. But anyway, now, how do you think we can raise boys to value and respect gender equality from a young age?
What we can do with boys, I believe society, the way society is, it doesn't cater to the natural affinity of boys to expend their energy and to grow up properly. So usually boys grow up enclosed and they end up getting frustrated because we live in a society where they're sort of like shackled. So we should create a situation where boys are always active. They can boys have testosterone and all those physiological issues that need them to be constantly active and like exploring themselves. So I believe our boys are too restrained. Are too restrained. Some of the issues that arise with boys is because they are too chained. So if we can just let boys,
allow them to be boys,
boisterous, yes, and then they'll use that energy elsewhere and not use it to beat women.
What changes do you think needs to happen at the national level to promote this gender equality that we've been talking about?
At national level, I believe what the government can do, they can come up with policies that can bleed into the social structure, that try to revive our culture that did not separate boys and girls. You know, the Setswana word for boys and girls is banyana. Like when children are young, we don't separate boys and girls. So I believe from our government at policy level, and it should bleed over to the social structure, that boys and girls are equal. That is where it should start.
Now I'm going to go a little deep with you, just so that I can see where you are. So have you ever reflected on the way your gender may have protected you from certain struggles?
Struggles like
whatever, the kind of struggles that women go through. For instance,
I think one thing that my gender might have protected me from, when you are growing up in the city, there is a point where you might not have money for rent, or you might not have a proper place to stay. As a boy, as a man, you can ask for accommodation from almost everyone. But usually with girls, whenever they get given accommodation, they also have to provide sexual favors. So I believe with me, my gender has benefited me because I can do a lot of things without anybody expecting or demanding sexual favors, which is not the case with females. They always have, at some point, a sexual favor is going to be demanded from them.
Yeah, that's actually the reality. So now we are getting closer to the end, and I just want to switch gears to talk about gender-based violence. Why do you think that thing is so prevalent in Botswana? Because it's the one gender that is the perpetrators in the majority of the situations.
I don't know. I actually tried to do a research on my TikTok about what really causes gender-based violence. But I believe there are a lot of issues. One other issue might also be the issue of corporal punishment. Like our society believes in corporal punishment. It's only now that the government is abolishing it in school. But I believe what corporal punishment does, it teaches us from a young age that if you don't agree with someone, or if you can't reach a verbal consensus, the only next thing after that is using physical
force and harm.
Using physical force. So I believe the issue that from the beginning also we are like South Africa, our neighbors, they've long abolished corporal punishment while we still use corporal punishment. So I believe also the reason why we are quick to use our hands, maybe because we were taught that corporal punishment, after a disagreement, the next thing that comes is physical confrontation. So maybe with the government abolishing it now, we might see.
Why can't you see it as just as a straight up punishment measure, not as a consensus building tool? But when a child does something wrong and they get whipped for it, why can't you just see it as a corrective measure to say, don't do this again.
Not saying it's a consensus what?
Not where now you are engaged with your child saying, how many times must I tell you not to, I don't know, knock these things off the table? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. No, but usually what happens with Africans, they all have that conversation. They all have that conversation. It's not just a punishment. It's more than that. It's more than a punishment. It's sort of like in certain situations, they might even say it's a necessity. It's necessary.
Okay, so now how do men typically respond to issues of this gender-based violence whenever they're brought up?
Men, they deflect the blame. Like even sometimes I've seen situations whereby a man has physically assaulted a woman and he would even go as far as shifting over the blame to her. So there's never a situation whereby you lift up your hand. I don't know if the reason why I don't do it, I don't condone it, is because I grew up in a farming family. So my hands are
always busy.
I'm very strong. I'm very strong.
Oh, okay.
So whenever
is that why you call yourself Rinyani?
Yes, I call myself.
What is Rinyani? A small
Rinyani means strong.
Oh.
Strong man. Okay. So I grew up in a farming family. So my hands are used to physical labor. So I'm strong. I've had an uncle sometime tell me that if your lady has never slapped you, it means she doesn't love you. So I can't be in that situation myself, because like if you were to slap me, I'm just too, so I avoid using my hands because I know how strong I am and what happens when I use my hand. So even those situations where you might get an advice from somebody telling you that if your lady has never slapped you and it means she doesn't love you.
That's insane. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, these are the things that happen.
You know, the last time somebody was physical with me in that way, in a violent way, was when I was a teenager at school. And maybe my parents when I was 14 years old. That was the last time. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, so with some people, they're not very sensitive to that kind of confrontation. Like you are saying, like if somebody was to maybe slap you or punch you, it would be a big deal. That is the same thing with me. Like if you were to slap me or you were to hit me with something, it would be a big deal. But there are some people in our society who it's not a big deal. You can slap them, beat them, and then tomorrow you are friends. Now I can't be your friend when you slapped me yesterday. No. I can't be your friend. Tomorrow will be a whole different story.
And can you imagine now if it's a woman who's in a relationship where she gets beaten all the time and she cannot leave. She
can't go
nowhere
anywhere.
To go.
Yes.
Woo. But anyway, I think right at the end, I can just ask, what do you think we should be doing? How should we be raising our boys differently so that we can reduce future violence against women, because it's a very big concern?
Like I was saying, we need to raise secure men. We need to have men who are well-rounded, men who have the ability to regulate their emotions. Like we should raise our boys in that way and equip them with the necessary skills for them to be able to regulate their emotions, to be secure about who they are, and also provide them with the means to support them financially. Because you know, one thing that wounds a man and that will destroy a man's self-esteem is his inability to provide for himself. That is where we get dangerous men. Those are the dangerous men who are poor and don't have the means to provide for themselves. So we should equip our young men with social skills, economic skills, and also psychological skills, and fortify them against life's problems. Because these men who are a problem in society, they are men who are caving to the pressure of society, the pressure of life. So we need men who can be resilient to the pressures of life, so that they can protect their sisters, their daughters, and their wives when they themselves are strong. Like we need strong men. We can't have weak men. The reason why we are having these problems is we have weak men.
What do you mean when you say they're weak?
They are weak because The weakness that I'm talking about is the psychological weakness.
Okay.
The psychological weakness, it comes from the upbringing that I was talking about, the way you have been brought up. You end up having those self-esteem problems, self-confidence problems, attachment issues. That is the kind of weakness that I'm talking about. So we need to fortify our men mentally, fortify our young men mentally, so that they become strong members of our society. The problem we are having is weak men, so we need stronger men.
You know, I also think a lot of people tend to deviate from the norm, from the road, because they don't have any useful or should I say opportunities to be useful in the society, to do some, they don't have anything that they can contribute.
To have a purpose.
Yeah.
If you have a purpose and you wake up every morning and you are trying to pursue that purpose and that dream, that is when you get to have a good life. People who are all over the place and who are committing the social ills, there are people who don't have a purpose and consequently a direction. Yeah.
My very last question is, if you had the attention of all young men in Botswana for a minute, what would you say to them about gender equality?
What I would say to young men about gender equality is our sisters need us. Now, I'm somebody who, I'm the firstborn in my family, and I have sisters myself. I have my mother. My mother is still alive, and also just females in our society. So what I want to say to young men is, our sisters, our mothers, and all the females in our society, they are our responsibility. They are our responsibility, and we should help them and contribute to the betterment of their lives and not become a hindrance to them.
And to build a stronger society where actually both the genders are working together in tandem.
And yes, complement each other. Complement each other. And I believe that the genders should not be competing. You know, one thing that I don't agree with, men and women can never be completely similar. So I'm not using the word equal, but I'm using the word similar.
Yeah, I heard that.
So men and women can never be similar. There are certain things and there are certain competencies that women will always gravitate to and will always be better than men. And there are also areas in which men will always gravitate to, and they will always be much more competent than women in those areas. So I believe where one's competency ends, one's competency should begin, and we should complement each other. That is how it was always meant to be, for us to help each other. Where a woman can't, a man can. Where a man can't, a woman can. That is my vision of the genders working together, complementing each other for the good of everyone.
You know what? I feel like I need to shake your hand in frame so that people can see, because I'm so impressed with how you view this whole thing. And we're right at the end of the program now. I can just give you like 1 minute to give me your closing statement, and we can say goodbye to the people.
My closing statement can also that sometimes as Africans, we have been taught to shun our culture, to move away from our culture. But as we grow as society and as we learn more, we tend to realize that those things that our parents, our ancient African parents used to practice, they're actually the things that when we are developing, we are gravitating back to those things. So all I can say is we should look more into our culture as Africans and see where it overlaps with psychological data and philosophical data, and integrate that into building our communities where our culture intercepts with philosophy and psychology.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with borrowing those Western philosophical principles at all. And those were just, I think, blueprints for us to improve upon using our own, knowledge and our own African philosophies. Thank you so very much for this beautiful and enlightening conversation. I hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you, Merab.